皆さんこんにちは。お元気ですか? Hi guys, I'm Lisa. Welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, はじめまして、Lisa です。If you love Japan, Japan's culture, or if you want to learn Japanese, or want to know weird facts about Japan, you're at the right place. This channel is completely dedicated to all these stuff, so do not forget to subscribe. So, in today's video, we are going to learn と思います or と思っています. I'll let you know what these mean. I think or they think in Japanese. So you will learn to express your opinion, or you can say your thought in a more better way using this phrase. Are you guys ready? Okay. This is a really intermediate topic, like it's not an absolute beginner topic. So I'm assuming you already know quite good Japanese. So I'm using a bit of kanjis and I'm not providing romaji this time, okay? So this is the phrase that we are going to encounter throughout this lesson, と思います. This verb has actually come from this omo. Omo is in its plain form, and when you want to make it polite, it becomes omoimasu, right? The mas form. So what about this to particle here? Fine. This to is again a particle which is used to indicate the thought. So the statement is going to be like, I think blah 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 blah. So this blah blah is going to be indicated by to. So whatever your thought is going to come before to, right? And that's what this arrow indicates. So your thought, then you add to particle, and then you say omoimasu to say that I think blah blah blah. I think it's clear? Very fine. Now in the case, if you are not the one who is thinking, that means the subject is not you, you do not have to use omoimasu again. Why? Because now you're trying to make an assumption, you're guessing what another person might be thinking. In that case, we generally use と思っています. It's nothing but the te form of 思います. 思っています. Okay? So again, to just tell you in bullet points, when you are the subject, と思います. When somebody else thinks something and you're just guessing it, it's と思っています. Okay? So keep this in mind. At the end of this lesson where there will be a quiz, you have to recall this point. Okay, let us look at the format or syntax, whatever you call it, for this type of grammar. In English, whenever we want to express our thought, we first say, I think that, and then we place our thought. That's how we do it, right? I think that, blah, blah, blah. Whatever you think. I think that Japanese is interesting. That's how we do this. Now let's look at the same thing in Japanese. In Japanese, the case is a bit difficult. I think entirely different. We place the thought at the first position, and then after placing the thought at the first position, we place I think that at the end. So it's a complete opposite of English, right? And you can see this case almost everywhere. In my previous of the lessons where we learned kara, how to say because in Japanese, this was the same case. Okay, so thought, I think that. It sounds a bit weird, so instead of saying I think that, you can just say that's what I think. Okay, so Japanese is difficult. That's what I think. Now this sounds better, right? Okay. So we know what the format looks like. You first have to place your thought, and then you place that I think so. Great. Now look at its construction. Thought, and then I think that. This was the format, right? The thought always has to be in the plain form. I'll come to that, but let's move on for the next part right now. And I think that we already tackled this part. It was と思います, isn't it? Okay, now from this, just by observation, you can come to a conclusion that to. This to particle, that's the work of that in English, and also the apostrophe mark, right? So in Japanese, we do not add these inverted brackets or inverted commas, whatever you call it, because all of these work is done by a simple to particle. Great. Now, coming back to the plain form, as I said, I'm assuming that you guys know the plain forms, and I have already uploaded in my previous videos where I have explained you the conjugations for adjectives, for nouns, and for verbs. So if you want, you can just check out those videos. So this was how the conjugation looks like for adjective. Positive, it remains as it is. If you want to make it negative, remove e, add kunai. If you want to make it past, remove e, add katta. And if you want to make it past negative, remove e, kunakatta. Right? So oishii, oishii kunai, oishii katta, oishii kunakatta. That's just an example. Again, I'm saying this is not the explanation. I'm going a little faster because I'm assuming that you guys already know this. Because I have already made a video of around 15 to 20 minutes, and if I start including that over here, I think this video will be unnecessarily long. What about non-adjective? This is just a revision. So if you already have watched that video, I'm sure I can bet this to you that this lesson is going to be super easy for you and you'll be mastering all the examples that I give you. So in case of non-adjective, what we do is in the present tense, just add da. And when you make it negative, just add janai. When you make it past, just add datta. In adjective, it was katta. Here it is datta. Pay attention. And to make it past negative, janakatta. Janakatta. Great. What about nouns? Okay, so here's the good news. The noun conjugation is very same as the non-adjectives. So you don't have to worry now. So if you know the non-adjective part, you already know the noun one. So just go to this, pause the video one more time if you want to revise everything, and then continue again. Okay. One more thing that you should know is this copula des. I have uploaded a video on what is des, what is copula mean if you don't know, and if you're an absolute beginner. I'm assuming you're not, because if you have come on this video, you are absolutely not a beginner. Anyways, if you are, you can check that video out. Des, which comes at the end of almost every Japanese statement, is not in its plain form, obviously, because des is its polite form. So how do we make this des into its short form? Like we saw for adjectives conjugation here, for non-adjectives, for nouns, but what about this des? Des is very easy. Just like we do in the case of non-adjectives or nouns, we just replace this des with da. Da. So this word da is going to be repeated at 3 cases. First, for des. Second, for non-adjective. And thirdly, for nouns. Okay? And just remember, with the adjectives, in the short form, you just need to have nothing next to it. No da, no anything. Okay? So just check out the part 1 and part 2 of this video, all about adjectives in Japanese. Part 1 includes adjectives or non-adjectives, and the part 2 has the adjectives. So I've explained the conjugation, their examples, everything, how to identify them, everything in this lesson. Okay. Now, we saw for adjectives, right? And nouns also. What about verbs? Do you know to make verbs in that short form? I think you know if you have checked out my previous video, but in this video, let me just make you revise this, because I understand that now going back to this video and watching it again and coming back to this video, it is boring, and if I were at your place, I would have given up, really. So I'm just going to make you revise. So if you already have a bit of idea what conjugation of verbs look like, you will just get it in a minute. But if you don't have even a single bit of idea, you just need to watch the video. So I'll give you the example of group 2 verb, taberu, to eat. In the present tense, it's taberu. And this is the plain form, okay? It's as it is, the very pure form of a verb. to make it into the present negative tense, I'll take the same verb, taberu. I'll just drop the ru. What do I do now? I add nai. So this nai indicates negativeness. So taberu, just drop ru and add nai. Tabenai. Now this is negative. Okay. If I want to make it past, again I'll take the same word taberu. I drop the ru and I add ta. Tabeta. Tabeta. So we saw taberu, present negative, tabenai, past, tabeta. And the last one, past negative, will be, I take the same verb. I take the present negative tense and now I drop the e and I add katta. Katta. So if you pay attention to this, I took the present negative tense, right? I took tabenai this time. And I dropped the e. So this na still has an essence of negativeness in it. And I add katta. Katta indicates past tense, as you can see a ta at the end. So na indicates negative tense, ta at the end indicates past tense, together past negative tense. So let's revise. Taberu, tabenai, tabeta, tabenakatta. Okay, great. So, if you already know this conjugation, this was a really good revision for you. I'll give you one more example of a group 3 verb. Since group 3 verbs are mostly irregular verbs, which means they hardly follow any rules, so most of the times you have to memorize them, but the good part is that there are only 2 such verbs, so obviously it's easy to memorize these. I'll take the example of the famous word suru, to do. In the present tense, in the very pure form, it's suru. If I want to make it present negative, I convert this su into she. Just remember, su into she, and just like we did in the case of taberu, we drop the ru and we add nai. I have added nai. So su becomes she, ru gets removed, nai gets added. Shinai. Great. Suru becomes shinai. Okay, what about the past tense? Su will again become she, right? And the past tense is indicated by ta at the end. So you can guess what it is. Yes, it's shita. Shita. Okay, and the past negative tense. You remember what we did in the case of taberu to make the past negative tense? Yes, we first took the negative verb. So here again, if I take shinai and I drop the e and I add katta, I'm doing the very same thing I did for taberu in the past negative tense. Take shinai, drop e, add katta. Shinakatta. Very well done. So suru, shinai, shita, shinakatta. Okay. Now, these were the conjugation in the plain form. In generally, if you must be studying the must form, we say tabemasu, to eat, tabemasen, to not eat, tabemashita, ate, tabemasen deshita, did not eat. So that's how we conjugate in the must form, but are we studying must form right now? No, we are studying the plain form because that's what we need to make a sentence into to omoimasu pattern. In the case of suru, if I just say the must form, it's shimasu. And in the present negative, shimasen. In the past, shimashita. Past negative, shimasen deshita. Okay, I have uploaded a video on must form as well, so if you want, you can check it out. Okay, before now, I just want to make a request. I have recently made a Telegram group, which is Learn Japanese with Risa Sensei. If you have an access to Telegram groups, you can just check out this group. This was made only for the purpose of reviewing notes. Like, after this video gets ended, I am going to upload the notes of this lesson, review notes, which you can go through and just revise everything on that group. So you can join it if you want. Some of you requested me to make this public make these handouts public for you guys because it's easier to make notes, and I understand that, and that was the reason why I made this group. So I will also let you know the handout of around 600 Japanese verbs. So they will be in the plain form, then in the mas form, and there will be a romaji for them as well. Okay, so if you want that PDF, you can just join this group. So since we are talking about the conjugation of verbs in the plain form, that's why I thought of making this PDF. I literally worked hard on it, and I'm going to make this public on this group. So yeah, if you want, you can check it out. Fine. Before we start with the to omoimasu pattern, there are 2 points that you should remember. One of it is already covered basically. The point 1 says that the clause that comes before to omoimasu must end in the plain form, and that's what we were learning today. Verbs in the plain form, na-adjectives in the plain form, e-adjectives in the plain form, or anything in the plain form. So if you know to say because in Japanese, you have already studied how to make a statement into its plain form. Great. Anyways, if you have not seen that video, you can check it out, but I have already explained you what plain form looks like. Now, in the second point, the subject of the sentence, which is the speaker, is often omitted. In English, we say, I think that I'll not go to school. I think that this kimono is beautiful. Whatever you think. We always mention this I. But in Japanese, pronouns are often omitted. And beginners do sound like beginners when they do not omit them. So in other words, in simplest word, I would say, you do not need to say I think every time, because this I is understood. When I ask for your opinion and you say I think, it's obvious from the context that I'm asking for your opinion and you will give me your opinion. Then why do you have to mention this I everywhere? It's very unnecessarily, and you should just omit it. So subject of the speaker is omitted when it's I. So everywhere you see there is no watashi used. So watashi wa blah 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 to omoimasu. No, not that way. Watashi wa, there is no need of it. Simply blah 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 to omoimasu is more than enough. Okay. Now, let's revise the pattern one more time. You use your thought or whatever the clause in its plain form plus to plus omoimasu. It means I think that blah blah blah. So first, you have to place your thought and then you have to place I think to omoimasu. Great. Now it's time for the most important part of the lesson. Examples. I have made each example into its utmost detail possible because I want no doubt to be there for you guys. Since this topic of grammar deals with conjugations, which is plain form, plain negative, past, past negative, and this applies to each class of verb. Like, you have to study all the 4 tenses of verb, all the 4 tenses of adjectives, e-adjectives, na-adjectives, and this might be a little messy thing. So I've tried to clear out everything for you so that this concept becomes crystal clear for you guys. So, without any more shitty talk, let's start with the first part. I'll take the example of a noun first. I hope you remember how the conjugation goes for a noun. Okay. Example is, tomorrow is a holiday. Woohoo! I love holidays. 明日は休みです. So, as I said, I'm going to use kanjis to make sure you know a little bit of kanji. 明日は休みです. Tomorrow is a holiday. Now, minasan, tell me if this sentence is in its plain form. Now, I was expecting the answer is no. Why? Because there is des over here, and we already discussed that des is never in its plain form. It's in its polite form. And we also discussed what do we have to replace des with to make it into the plain form? Of course, it's da. So, when you replace des with da, now your statement is in the plain form. So, 明日は休みだ. This is correct. So, when this is in the plain form, can I use it with the to omoimasu phrase? Of course I can. So, let's try that. Since it is in the plain form, I'll take the same phrase, 明日は休みだ, and I add the phrase, と思います. Now the statement is superb. It's perfect, and any Japanese person can make out what you want to say. 明日は休みだと思います. I think tomorrow is a holiday. So for nouns, for non-adjectives, and for this, we replace it with da in its plain form. Great. Now, let me take an example for na-adjective. The example says, this photo is beautiful. You know how to say photo in Japanese, right? It's sashin. Sashin. So, how do you say, this photo is beautiful? Yes. この写真は綺麗です. So if you want to know この、その、あの、どの, you can check out my previous videos. You can find almost many of the grammar topics already covered on this lesson. So just do not forget to subscribe. Fine. If you were getting so far, just hit the like button as we are moving forward with even more beautiful examples. So the sentence was この写真は綺麗です. This photo is beautiful. Now, 皆さん, I don't want you to get confused with 綺麗. 綺麗 might end with E, but it's an adjective. I know it's an exception. Okay? And that is why I wrote it not using a kanji, but using hiragana. So, この写真は綺麗です. 綺麗 being a na-adjective. You have to make it in its plain form. Now, you guys can tell me if the sentence is in the plain form. No, it's not. Why? Because there's a des over here. Just like we saw in the example of noun, yasumi desu was not in its plain form because it has des. And to make it in the plain form, I just drop this des and I add da. Da, a lifesaver. So, この写真は綺麗だ. This is in the plain form. In fact, this is a statement that you can use with your friends also. Now, since this is in the plain form, I think we can use it with the と思います phrase, isn't it? So, great! What are we waiting for? This statement now means, I think this photo is beautiful. この写真は綺麗だと思います. Okay? Great. I'm assuming that you're getting everything so far. For non-adjectives, for noun, and for this. In the plain positive form, you have to add da to make it into the plain form. Okay. Now I'll take one more example for e-adjective. We saw for non-adjective, we saw for noun, and now it's turn for an e-adjective. Great. The statement is, cats are cute, aren't they? Are you a cat person or a dog person? I think I'm a dog person. Then why I took this example? Anyways, so you can let me know in the comment box. Cats are cute. They really are indeed. 猫は可愛いです. 可愛い is an e-adjective here. And 猫 means cat. Now, is the statement in the polite form? Nope. We saw in the beginning of this lesson, when I made you revise the conjugation, that for e-adjectives, in the plain form, we need absolutely nothing in front of them. But here, 可愛い has that in front of it. So is it in the plain form? Nope. So this des is our troublemaker. So we're just gonna remove this des, and now this statement is perfect. 猫は可愛い is in the plain form. Cats are cute. Okay? So this statement is now ideal to be used with the phrase と思います. So it becomes 猫は可愛いと思います. Great! You did it! Let me take one more example. Now it is for verb. I'm taking each example for each class of word. E-adjective, noun, verb, and na-adjective. Now it's turn for verb. The example is very obvious. 渋谷駅に行きました. I went to the Shibuya station. 渋谷駅に行きました. It's actually but you can also use ni here. It doesn't matter. 渋谷駅へ行きました. I went to the Shibuya station. Great. Now can you guys tell me if this is in the polite form? But you already see this woman making her hands a cross symbol. That means it's not in the polite form. Why? I did not have to tell you this time because I've been shouting the same thing from the beginning. It is in the mas form, mashita, which is the polite form, and we need the plain form. So ikimashita is not in its plain form. So how do we make this verb into its plain form? Obviously, I remove this ikimashita and I add itta. Itta. Now, if you are a beginner, you might get confused at this point of time. How do I make the verb iku into its past tense? Past tense follows a conjugation called the ta form, and that's why I always tell a ta at the end of a verb denotes that it is in the past tense. I have made a video on the ta form, and I also gave you a song to remember the ta form. I'll just sing it for you, though I'm not a good singer. It was Utsuru ta mugununda kuita guida ikuita kurukita surushita sushita. Okay, remind this song. Iku itta. Iku becomes itta in the ta form. It's a really interesting way to remember this conjugation using a song, right? Iku becomes itta. And to your surprise, iku is an exception. So iku in the past form, itta. You need to know the ta form for this. Okay, Shibuya-eki ni itta. Now the statement is in the plain form and it is worth using with to omoimasu. Shibuya-eki e itta to omoimasu. I think I went to the Shibuya station. Okay, now how to make it negative. So far, we saw the 4 examples for noun, na-adjective, e-adjective, and verb in the positive tense. How to make it negative? How to say, I don't think something. In that case, there are 2 ways to do so. First way is either you make the verb think, to omoimasu, into negative. So the verb omoimasu in the negative become omoimasen. Otherwise, the second way suggests that you just let the verb think, omoimasu, the very same way it is. Do not just touch it. Instead, you change the form of the clause that comes before it. So 2 ways. First, you change the verb omoimasu into omoimasen. Or you change the verb or na-adjective or the e-adjective or anything that is in the clause. What do I mean by the clause? Your thought. You say, I think that. Okay, I'll give you an example. I think I love ice cream. I think I love ice cream. I do love. So, here, in these 2 ways, I'll show you how to do that. Firstly, I can change this verb think in its negative form. So the statement will be something like, I don't think I love ice cream. That's wrong. I don't think I love ice cream. Right? I just changed the word think into its negative form. On the other hand, the second way suggests that you can convert the verb love in its negative form. So now the statement will be, I think I don't love ice cream. So I think now this example gave you a clear idea of what I am trying to say. You can change either think over here or love over here. Great. But in most of the cases, what happens is it's most ideal to change the clause. So what happens is we generally don't change this I think. Rather, we always try to change this, the clause part. So I would say, I think I don't love ice cream to make it into negative. Rather than, I don't think I love ice cream. So just leave the word omoimasu as it is and try to change the clause. Okay, now how to make negative? We know this. I've explained this in my previous videos, and also in the very beginning of this video, I show you the conjugation chart. How to make a verb or a adjective into its negative form. I hope you remember it. If you don't, have a look at this. For e adjectives, to make them into negative, we remove e and we add kunai. And for na adjectives, we just add janai. So do not be confused. E adjectives, kunai. Na adjectives, janai. Okay. So I want your attention here. Fine. Our first example was for a noun, right? Noun and na adjectives conjugate the very same way. I'm repeating it again and again. And our first example that we took, again this time in its negative form. I'm taking the same example so that it becomes super clear to you. So the statement was, tomorrow is not a holiday. Actually, it was tomorrow is a holiday, but since we're trying to make it into the negative form, now it is tomorrow is not a holiday. Now in this situation, tomorrow is ashita wa. Holiday is yasumi. And to make yasumi into negative, I add janai. Why? Because yasumi is a noun, and we just right now saw that to make a noun or a na adjective into its negative form, we add janai. Fine. So to say I think that tomorrow is a holiday, I just have to add the super useful phrase to omoimasu. Now the statement means I think tomorrow is not a holiday. That's bad news. Ashita wa yasumi janai to omoimasu. Great. So let's go for another example. Before we start with the next example, let me just tell you one thing. I'm sure you'll be surprised to hear this. Though this sentence literally translates to I think tomorrow is not a holiday. So you're making the verb, you're making the noun holiday into its negative tense, right? So not a holiday. Fine, this is the literal translation. But the meaning that is coming out of it still means I don't think tomorrow is a holiday. Are you getting the difference? Though you have made holiday into negative, the meaning suggests that you have made omoimasu into negative. And that is why I always said that you should stick to the second way of making a sentence into negative. Making the noun or the class into negative rather than making omoimasu into negative. So you see, Japanese is the complete opposite of what you do. When you made the class negative, the meaning came out as if you're making the verb omoimasu negative. Okay? So don't worry, even if you convert this inside class into negative, the meaning comes out, I don't think. Okay? So just remember, do not alter this omoimasu. Just change the class into its tense. Fine. Now let's convert this statement into each tense. You know the conjugation, right? I'm showing it again because I don't want you to lose confidence. If you are here for the very first time, that means if you do not know how to conjugate them before, and if this is your first time, I think now you'll be super confident to use this. And if you already know this conjugation, you'll be super useful for this. So, na adjectives, in the present form da, present negative janai, past datta, past negative janakatta. Fine. I'm going a little faster because this is just a revision, minasan. I'm not explaining it here again. But I think I have taken the revision itself into a really detailed manner, isn't it? Okay. The example was, ashita wa yasumi to omoimasu. Right? In the present tense, we add da. Ashita wa yasumi da to omoimasu. In the present negative tense, we add janai. Ashita wa yasumi janai to omoimasu. In the past tense, we add datta, just like we saw. Ashita wa yasumi datta to omoimasu. And in the past negative tense, we use janakatta. Ashita wa yasumi janakatta to omoimasu. So, tomorrow I think tomorrow is a holiday. I don't think tomorrow is a holiday. I thought tomorrow is a holiday. And I didn't thought tomorrow is a holiday. So you converted the same statement using a noun, yasumi, in its 4 tenses. That's worth clapping for, minasan. Great. よくできました. Now let's see our second example that we saw at the beginning of this lesson. Again this time, but in all the tenses. We just saw in the present tense in the beginning. Now we'll cover the same example in its all 4 tenses. The second example was of a na-adjective. You remember it, right? この写真はきれいだと思います. I think this picture is beautiful. きれい was the na-adjective that we used. And this is going to be the very same, so I'm not going in detail for this example because noun and na-adjective conjugate the very same way. Just before this, we saw the example of a noun, yasumi. So I don't have to go in detail because the conjugation is just the same. Present negative, きれいじゃない. Past, きれいだった. Past negative, きれいじゃなかった. And the rest of the statement is going to be the same. So again, you mastered this statement into its all 4 tenses. That's amazing. Now let's take an example of an E adjective. If you want, you can pause the video and go to the revision one more time. Although I have to revise the same conjugation hundreds of times, so I'm assuming that you know how to conjugate it. Anyways, if you don't, just look at the chart below. Present, you don't have to add anything to it. Present negative, remove E, add kunai. Past, you just add katta. Past negative, you add kunakatta. Okay. So the statement was, I think cats are cute. 猫は可愛いと思います. Right? 可愛い will become what in the present negative tense? So I'm just focusing on 可愛い. Rest of the sentence is going to be the same, so I just spread it everywhere. So the verb 可愛い is an E adjective, sorry. So 猫は可愛いと思います. I think cats are cute. Let's say, I think cats are not cute. Or, I don't think cats are cute. So to make it into negative, to make 可愛い into negative, you just drop the E and you add くない. So now, 猫は可愛くないと思います. Great. To make it into the past tense, you just drop the E and you add かった. 猫は可愛かったと思います. Now this statement does not make much sense because I thought cats were cute. What does it mean? Maybe you thought cats were cute, but now you feel cats are not cute. Something like that? Okay, anyways, I could have taken a meaningful example, but I took the same example so that you can just analyze the difference between all of the tenses, right? And in the past negative tense, you just drop the E and you add くなかった. くなかった. Needless to explain, you know how this kunakatta came into existence, right? I actually first take the kunai part, I drop the E, and I add this katta. That's how we do it. Kunai, drop the E, and add katta. Kunakatta. So, past negative tense is a mixture of the present negative and the past tense. Anyways, I hope you understood this. Let's revise it one more time. かわいい、かわいくない。かわいい、かわくない。かわかった、かわくなかった。Okay. Now, let's take the example for a verb. The example was 渋谷駅へ行くと思います. I think I go to Shibuya Station. Now in all the cases, the rest of the part is going to be the same, but the verb is going to change. So 行く, in its plain form, it's 行く, to go. In the plain negative form, it becomes 行かない, 行かない. Now you might get a little confused over here. How does 行く becomes 行かない? Okay, Now, I want to say that iku is mostly an exception. But when you want to convert a verb like iku into its negative form, you convert the last sound into the a sound. So ku becomes ka. If it was su, it becomes sa. Gu becomes ga. Anything with the u sound, because it's a u verb, the u sound will become into the a sound. I'm again repeating it. I am not explaining it here because I have already uploaded a video on that. If I would have not uploaded a video, I would have taken this into super detail. So I'm assuming that you already know this, right? Again, I'm still explaining it just so that you leave with no confusion. Iku. Ku becomes ka. Ika. And to make it negative, we generally add this nai, right? So together, ikanai. Ikanai. Okay. Next we have itta. And you have already seen how this itta came into existence, right? It's the ta form. So if you don't know ta form, please make sure that you check out this video or any video that you want, which makes you understand the ta form. Okay? The past form of verbs. So, next, in the past negative tense, it becomes ikanakatta. You know how this became, right? Ikanai. You take this ikanai, you drop the e and you add katta. Ikanakatta. So one more time. Iku. Ikanai. Itta. Ikanakatta. Fine. Now it's time for a quiz. You have just 5 seconds to answer it. Do you think it is interesting? Let's say you're talking about a movie. Okay, that's how you say it. Omoshiroi to omoimasu ka? I think I'll release the answer very soon. I'm sorry for that. Do you think it is interesting? Now, if I just explain it, although I think there's no need of explanation because already this video was a very fine into explanation, very detailed in terms of explanation, but still, interesting is a e adjective, which is omoshiroi, as you can see here. As we saw in the plain form, e adjectives need nothing next to it. You simply add to omoimasu. So omoshiroi to omoimasu. And since it's a question, you add the question marking particle at the end, which is ka. Omoshiroi to omoimasu ka? Do you think it's interesting? By the way, when you want to say, what do you think? We say, do omoimasu ka? Do actually means how in Japanese, but it translates to us, what do you think? Not how do you think. Okay, so what do you think of this movie, Romeo and Juliet? Okay, so this was right. If you got this answer right, very good. Yoku dekimashita. Second example. Second question. I think there are many exams. I think there are many exams. In case if you don't know the vocabulary, exams is shiken and many is takusan. If you think the time that I give for you to search for an answer is not enough, just feel free to pause this video, take enough of time, think over the answer, and then come back on this video and resume it. Okay, so did you get the answer? Fine. I show the answer. たくさん試験があると思います。are to the verb are in Japanese is arimasu, but it's in the mas form. In the plain form, it's aru. Aru. Since we're talking about exams, a non-living thing, it's aru. If it was a living thing, we use iru or imasu. In the plain form, iru. In the mas form, imasu. So, exams, shiken. たくさん試験があると思います。Make sure you use aru in its plain form. Fine. Let me give you one more example. Ken might think that the exam was difficult. Ken might think that the exam was difficult. Now, you remember the point that I said you at the beginning of this lesson? and you are still continuing to watch this video, I'm sure you can recall that point. When I is not the subject, when you are talking about what somebody else might be thinking, in that case, we do not use to omoimasu. You remember that, right? So what do we use instead of to omoimasu? Okay. Ken さんは試験は難しかったと思っています。It's not 思います, it's 思っています。We use 思っています when you want to guess what somebody else might be thinking. Now, the exam was difficult. Difficult is 難しい. We know that in the past tense, we drop the E and you add かった. So 難しい. Drop the E and you add かった. 難しかった. Was difficult. Okay. Ken さんは試験は難しかったと思っています。Ken might think that the exam was difficult. Fine. If you were able to do this example, I'm seriously proud of you. Before you go, just do not forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet for more such interesting lessons in a most interesting way. Share this channel with your friends who are also trying to learn Japanese. Comment and let me know whether you enjoyed this video and if you got the answers right. And of course, like this video if you want this to reach out more beginners out there. This lesson was one of the seriously most of the difficult lessons for me to make. Not to explain but to make, because it involved a lot of animation and it's seriously not so easy to make a lesson into such a presentable way, in a way that you people can understand it. So, you know, it's easy to understand something, but it's difficult to make somebody else understand it. So that's what the problem is. And since I said in my previous video as well, my college time is actually fluctuated. So I get a literally less amount of time to make my lessons. So right now it's 11. Before going to my bed, I'm making this lesson and I'll be uploading it very soon. So if you're watching this lesson, I took tremendous effort. So please do not forget to subscribe and like and comment and let me know if you enjoy this video. Okay. So that's all for this lesson. I hope this lesson helped you. Thank you so much for watching. 見てくれてありがとうございました、皆さん。And just want to request you one more thing. If you watch this video one more time, like if you do not know the conjugation, and if you're watching this video for the very first time without knowing the conjugation, something might not go into your head. Like you might feel it is difficult, but it's not. It's for the time being that you find it difficult. When you read the conjugation 2 to 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, this will become easy for you. And do not forget to check out the previous video that I told you. Conjugation is easy once you revise it a lot, okay? Because it takes time to understand what to drop, what to add, okay? See you in the next lesson. またね! Till then, keep learning and stay safe.